This is the beck and call of our culture. Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyo. Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyo. Write all these things. Put it on your wall. Right from the childhood, let the child read these things. Enquire from you. What is this, my dear father? What does it mean? Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyo. Manishyaha, the human. Tarpaniyaha na. He is not to be satisfied, gratified by vittena, by wealth. Wealth is not the source which will give you satisfaction, which will give you fulfillment, which will give you acceleration and exaltation. About Srimad Bhagavata itself, what is the proverb? Swadu swadu pade pade, swadu swadu dine dine. It is very delicious, more and more delicious, every day, day after day, word after word. Read Srimad Bhagavatam, you will find your whole body will be covered by horripilation, full of that. The throat will start choking sometimes. There will be so much of exhilaration for you, ecstasy for you, all generated by the mind, all by itself, without resorting to any object at all, except perhaps the Bhagavata book, the white paper and the black color print, that's all. Na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyagenaige amrtatvamanashuhu na vittena tarpaniyo manushyo. This is from Kathopanishad. Kathopanishad. The young boy, Nachiketas, makes this utterance before God Yama. Can you imagine a child? The father could not do it. The father was possessive. He was very insincere. Even while performing a very holy and austere sacrifice, he was very, very possessive, not gifting the right material along with the chanting of the mantras, giving useless cows which are a load, which are not harmonious to the cowshed. So just imagine. Now, Mundakopanishad sings in this manner. Vedamda vijnana sunishchidartha sannyasa yogad yadaya shuddha sattva te brahmaloke tu paramta kale paramritaha parimuchyanti sarve Vedamda vijnana sunishchidartha. I think this can be an ideal for all Indian youngsters and children. Vedamta vijnana sunishchita arthaha. What does it mean? As a human being, you must be discreet enough, discriminating enough to decide upon what is the supreme object of my life. What is the object in life? You tell me. I have asked so many married people, why did you marry? They are already perhaps parents or grandparents. Swamiji, we haven't thought about it. Without thinking you got married? Without thinking that you have become parents and grandparents? What is this? Action first and thought next. In a right human being, it should be thought first, evaluation first, choice first, and action next. Plan your work and then work your plan. This must be our objective. But we have nothing in that manner. Vedanta vijnana sunishchidartha. The object of pursuit should be determined by sunishchida, well determined. Your determination or decision or resolve should be unshakable, unassailable. It should be very judicious, commendable if at all. Vedanta vijnana, on the basis of the vijnana, the knowledge provided by Vedanta, the Upanishads. The Upanishads have made evaluations about human life. The Upanishads have clearly analyzed what is human life and what should be the purpose and objective of human life. It's very clearly mentioned there. Vedanta vijnana sunishchidartha. So the whole word means in this manner. Those people whose object of human life has been very well decided upon on the basis of the knowledge provided by Vedanta, the Upanishads. Sannyasa yogad. My dear viewers, are you with me when I say this? Understand it. You are a member of the Hindu society. You have a great culture behind you. There is a great legacy beckoning you. Don't waste your life. Don't make it meaningless. Don't make your life a rigmarole, a confusion. Certainly not. We have got ample heredity, a great, inestimably great culture we have. We have enough material in a written manner. We have also a lot of tradition in our country. And we cannot say all this is nonsense. It is to make your life comfortable, glorious, splendorous, fulfilling. At the end of your life, never go back saying, no, I could not do anything. I did not do anything. I have just completed 70 years, 80 years, but not knowing what I should have done. Don't go with such a pathetic note. We have got ample wisdom. We have got Ramayana, we have got Mahabharata, we have got the supreme Srimad Bhagavatam, we have got the original text like the Vedas, the Vedic Upanishads we have. We have the Bhagavad Gita before us. Read it, understand it, be inspired by it, be enlightened by it. When I am speaking you today, we have completed a 5-week course on experiential Vedanta. We asked all the participants to speak whatever they have with regard to the experience that they have undergone in the course. And they spoke very well. One of them has a religious and to some extent a spiritual background. He said, I have been going here, there, and so many different practices of yoga, disciplines of yoga, this karma yoga, kriya yoga, yoga, raja yoga, ashtanga yoga, so many different things. I don't know what all these were. Now after coming here, we understood there is something called a cultural treasure of our country, of our land. What is that? It is Prasthanatrayam, he said. What is Prasthanatrayam? Primarily the Upanishads. Then comes the commentary by Krishna, written by Vedavyasa, Vyasadeva, on the Upanishads themselves, Bhagavad Gita. It's a part of Mahabharata. Then we have got the rational aphorisms presented by Badarayana, Vedavyasa again, Brahma Sutras. These three together constitute the Prasthanatrayam. So never ask anybody, don't meander for nothing. We have got written literature. We don't know when it was written and who wrote it. It was so old, age old. Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitartha Sannyasa Yogat Yadaya Shuddha Sattva. You know why in 1947, when our national flag was designed, formed, both in color, shape, content, etc., why this ochre piece was put there, that orange portion? That is the one indicative of fire-like purity which sannyasins are supposed to have and do embody in them. Sannyasa Yoga. After all, our independence was won by a lot of austere struggle and starvation, a lot of privation. Endurance was necessary at that time. So they had the spirit of asceticism. Only when the cultural song of the country, the Bhagavad Gita, the Sthitaprajna Prakarana, the Bhakta Lakshanas, the Gunatita Lakshanas, they started being sung from the prayer meetings of Mahatma Gandhi. The entire country started shaking up, waking up and coming together. Not until then. Even today, if you want to arouse the Indian society, you must arouse them in spiritual lines, philosophical lines, cultural lines. It is not religious. We are not rigidly religious. We may have some devotion, we may have some piety. That is the lower part of spirituality. When you climb up, you will find it's absolutely spiritual-philosophical, spiritual-cultural. It all refers to the refinement of the mind, the clarity of the intelligence. You cannot imagine how it works. In the 5-week course that we conducted, which concluded today, as I said, it was this cultural inspiration, cultural enlightenment, cultural elevation, cultural expansion that cultural refinement and fulfillment that we were trying to impart, infuse, instill and imbue to the participants. That was our purpose. That is why we named it as experiential Vedanta. It was not an academic instruction or tuition. It was imparting the experiential part of it. I was discussing Bhagavad Gita. The second chapter I discussed in full. The third also to a very large extent. So 2 chapters were taken, and the rest of the chapters I have given them a bird's eye view of the whole thing. Similarly, Nutun Swamiji, Nirvisheshananda Swamiji was talking to them, bringing so many elements from Upanishads, etc. And Ma Gurupriya was discussing about Srimad Bhagavatam, Viveka Chudamani and a number of allied texts, emphasizing what it is to become a sadhaka, a seeker, a striver, a pursuer. What it is to be so. What are the qualities to be understood and then imbibed, preserved and strengthened to become a seeker of truth. Even an iota of knowledge you get from Vedanta, it is directly strengthening the mind, stabilizing the mind, deepening the mind, making it loftier, broader and more perspective. Similarly, it is equally refining and attuning and enlightening the intelligence. Every word is an idea. An idea is the unit of knowledge. With every word of mine, I am infusing into units and measures of knowledge. If you hear me, you will find your mind gets automatically and irresistibly, spontaneously transformed into a better product. If you have a charcoal mind now, you will have a golden mind later in the next few days. So much difference is there. Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitartha Sannyasa Yogat Yatayas Shuddha Sattva Sannyasa Yogat Yatayas Shuddha Sattva. If you are able to arrive at the ultimate object of your own human life on the basis of the information, knowledge, enlightenment provided by the Upanishads, automatically you will understand renunciation is the way of life, true way of life. Renunciation is the goal of life. Possessiveness, the reverse of it, is dangerous. You live in this world amply, comfortably, gloriously, I have no objection. But understand that the world is something to be left, not possessed and taken. You cannot take anything at all. Even your own body cannot be taken. If you are wearing a ring, somebody will be there to remove it before the body is cremated. Nothing we can take. If the body itself, by virtue of which you possess many things, has to be left, why don't you learn the art of living while the body is young and agile? Be judicious. Be discreet. Forestall all unfortunate developments. I am a human being. I have to conform to my human dignity, elegance and refinement. Finally, excellence. Sannyasa yoga, yataya shuddha sattvaha. By striving through the spirit, purpose and procedure of sannyasa, pursuit of sannyasa, they became shuddha sattvaha. It's a very beautiful expression. A purified mind is called shuddha sattva. Shuddha sattvaha. They became purified in their mind and heart. Te brahmaloke tu parantakale paramritaha parimuchyanti sarve. They are the people who attain to that Brahmic enlightenment and expansion, and they became immortal, getting relieved and free from all kinds of bondage. Every bondage is felt in our mind. That is the same place where you have to feel the freedom from bondage also. There is no difference. It is in the same mind. The impure mind binds us. The pure mind liberates us. Mind you have, why don't you make it a liberational mind, a liberated mind? Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchitartha Sannyasa Yogat Yataya Shuddha Sattva Te Brahmaloke tu Parantakale Paramritaha parimuchyamdi sarve. Nayamatma balahinena labhyaha atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate mridam. These are another two statements, declarations of the Upanishads. Nayamatma balahinena labhyaha. This indwelling self cannot be attained, known and experienced by a weakling. You must have a strong mind, a devoted mind. I am not asking you to become a pahalwan, a stout-bodied person. You must have a determination in your mind, a resolve in your mind. God is great, I may be small. But as long as I am devoted to God, automatically all His greatness flows on to me and I will no more remain small. Never doubt your efficiency. Never doubt your potential. Never doubt the possibilities that you have. In your mind and thinking, don't be narrow at all. No. Become as broad as possible. As broad as possible. Our Upanishadic thinkers have said, Shrinvantu sarve amritasya putraha. You know, they declared from wherever they were, oh, ha, he, amritasya putraha, children of immortality, hear, listen, all. You know, that is an expansion of the mind. Do not live only as a family member. Live as a citizen of the country, of the world. Do not live only for your family. Live enriching the country's resources. The country's resources. The wealth and the treasure of the country by your life. You may live in your home, but your productivity is for the nation and for the world. Understand this, evaluate this. Make your own estimation and evaluation about the worth and the dignity and the scope and the contributory measure of your resources. Nayamatma balahinena labhyaha. Balahinena atma nalabhyaha. By a weak man, this atma cannot be attained. It is something all-pervading. To possess, to understand the all-pervading soul, what should be the magnificence of your mind? You think about it. Atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate mridam. Understanding. You are speaking of strength. Can you write out a check and withdraw some courage from anywhere in the bank? Atmana eva vindate viryam. Courage is something to be spun and woven by your own heart, mind and intelligence. When you think of small things, you become weak. When you think of great things, the weakness starts dwindling. Think of greater, and ultimately when you think of the greatest, either God or your own indweller, you get the maximum of virya, strength. Atmana vindate viryam, vidyaya vindate amridam. It is by the knowledge that you become immortal. So when I read all these things from the Upanishads, again in Calcutta, I found so much of inspiration, so much of untold power, elegance in all these statements. After all, they were letters taken from the Sanskrit alphabet. We have got something like 48 or 51 letters. All words and all poetry are composed by these letters. And from there we got, what a wonderful inspiration was it. Coming back to Yadi Panchakam, our people taking to renunciation, understanding the goal of life, understanding what knowledge means, what knowledge does, and in the hands of knowledge, what is the greatest fulfillment earmarked for us, understanding it in this manner, they became Yadis, sannyasins. And as sannyasins, what is their normal routine? Vedamda vakyeshu sadaramanto bhikshanna matrena chatushtimantaha. When you become a sannyasin, it is very clear. What? It's very clear that I am not going to have all the paraphernalia which householders have. Initially, to begin with, at least, I become a single person. I stand on the road, helpless, nobody to help me. I have no profession which will give me an income. I have no brothers, sisters, parents or the others to look after me or help me, feel sympathy for me. I cut across all kinds of rope bondage. And just like the earth is supported by the Supreme Providence, I am a denizen of the earth, is also equally supported by Providence. That kind of a feeling comes to you. And in order to preserve your body, you are not thinking of destroying the body. There is one way allowed by our tradition and culture: seek bhiksha. Go to a good, respectable family, whichever may be it may be, and then say, Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. These three words, it is such an announcement to the householder, particularly to the housewife. She instantly will come with food, cooked food, ready to be eaten, and then offer it. So as a bhikshu, you must be prepared to take, you are ready only for bhiksha. Bhikshanna matrena. Mark the words. Bhiksha anna matrena. The anna, that food you get out of bhiksha, begging. It is not called just begging. It is a bhiksha. Bhiksha. Matrena. Only by that, tushtimantaha, feeling contented and happy. After all, you require something to feed the Jatharagni, the fire in the stomach, and food has to be given. And you don't prepare food, you don't cook food, you are not a family person. So you have every right to go and then say, Om Namo Narayanaya. You don't ask for anything. You utter the name of God, name of God. And remind the householder, my dear householder, here I have come, an austere man, a mendicant, to remind you that all of us are living under the mercy and blessing of God. At least I am reminding you, I am completely depending upon Lord and Providence. So here is an occasion for you to give some bhiksha to such an austere, spiritual mendicant. By offering that bhiksha, you know what happens? The householder is able to wipe off all the sins committed earlier and being committed now. Praguttara Shubham. Sins already committed and sins to be committed, all of them will be wiped off and they will become receptacles for punya and virtue by offering bhiksha to the bhikshu. By offering food to your children, you will not have this privilege, fortune or blessing. Mark my words, by giving food to your children and members of your family, you are not going to have this virtue or this holiness. Only when you offer bhiksha to a sannyasin, this great felicity, this great blessing, this great virtue is showered on you. So none of them will miss that opportunity. These words are much more miraculous than anything in this world. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. For us, everything is divine. For the bhikshu, it is all the more so. And whatever he gets, he may go to one house, 2 houses or 3 houses. It doesn't matter. He is not allowed to go to more than 10 houses. Tushtimantaha, being very contented. Vishogamandha karane ramantaha. Vishogamandha karane ramantaha. What is the place and what is the substance? These travelers, these mendicants, they are getting their delight from, where are they sporting? Where are they reveling? In their own andhakarana, the mind, the intelligence. What is the type of manovritti, mental functions that take place? What is the type of reason and logic, enquiry that comes from the intelligence? They will always be watching. Suppose I got a pleasant food from my house, do I have any special consideration for it? Suppose the food got is a little unpleasant, does my mind swing? They will always observe their manovrittis and you will find there is a lot to be done there. If the mental modifications are not favorable, sublime, divine and soothing, then they will be checking it, correcting it, improving it. By what process? By self-tuition, by introspection. Vishokam. And in doing so, they have no grief, they have no sense of sorrow, humiliation or anything whatsoever. Such people, kaubinavantah kalu bhagyavantaha. They may wear only a piece of loincloth. When you look at them, they appear to be, very low-born. They have nothing. They are tottering under poverty. Poverty, you may think, but they are not really so. Bhagyavantaha, they are the most fortunate people upon this earth. Kaubinavantaha. Others are spending thousands and 10,000s of rupees to get costumes, dress for them. These people take a piece of cloth and wear it on their hip, and they walk about freely like beautiful animals. What about the horses? What about the deer? Is not the deer beautiful? Will you ever say, looking at the deer, it is naked, it is very poor? Or would you like to see the whole body of the deer? Similarly, the human being also is most beautiful when he is having that natural exposure of the body.